Objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, Libya is about to get $2.5 million in aid from the American taxpayers, and $200,000 each is earmarked for foundations run by Omar Gaddafi's two kids. What's with that? Omar Gaddafi is an international terrorist. He gave the order for the bombing of the Pan Am jet over Lockerbie, Scotland in 1988. And then he led the cheers for the killer when he was returning. 10 women and children boarded that airplane that was headed for New York's JFK airport. A Libyan official checked a suitcase on that flight with a bomb in it. The airplane exploded, killing 243 passengers and 16 crew members, mostly Americans. 11 people on the ground in Scotland were killed when large chunks of the plane fell out of the sky and hit their town. What are we doing giving this man and his family U.S. taxpayer dollars? Has America lost its way? The United States nations is starting to look like the bar scene in the Star Wars movie. Murderers, thugs, and terrorists freely roam the halls, and they're asked to speak before the General Assembly. There was a time when the United Nations was a threat to tyrants, but now it seems like it's their home. Omar Gaddafi said at the UN that Lee Harvey Oswald, the person who killed President Kennedy, was an Israeli spy. He called for a civil war in Iraq. He condemned the war on terror in Afghanistan. And he said the swine flu is a biological weapon created in laboratories. Can't tell who blames on that, however. Omar also said in his 100-minute rambling rant that we should call the United Nations Security Council the Terrorist Council, made up of the United States and other nations. Omar's twin terrorist tyrant, Ahmadinejad, also had some choice things to say at the United Nations this week. The little fella from the desert of Iran said that Israel is committing genocide. He said that capitalism has caused all the misery in the world. The tiny tyrant also praised himself for his glorious election this year. You know, Mr. Speaker, that's the election where he and his government beat and killed unarmed peaceful protesters that opposed him. He says the Holocaust is a myth. He wants the destruction of Israel and the United States, and he's building nuclear weapons. Who do you think those weapons are for? And what is the United States' reaction? Well, we canceled our missile defense system in Poland, a defense system that was to protect the United States from intercontinental ballistic missiles from Iran. And our Polish allies think we betrayed our commitment to them in Eastern Europe. Mr. Speaker, has America lost its way? And let's not forget Hugo Chavez, the tyrant of Venezuela who railed against the United States. He spoke also at the UN. He's good buddies with the desert rat of Iran. And a New York district attorney recently said there's evidence that Venezuela is setting up a Venezuelan missile crisis for the United States. Now, isn't that lovely? Why do we send U.S. taxpayer money to the UN at all? 20% of UN funds come from the United States. And the American public is asking why. Why do we finance the UN that embraces thugs, dictators, terrorists, and everyone who hates America and Israel? Mr. Speaker, since nobody else over at the UN has said it, I will. And I will say this without apology. The United States is the greatest country in the history of the world. We have more freedom and liberty than any people in the history of the planet. We have done more than any nation to help some of the most ungrateful people around the planet in the history. We should not abandon our missile defense system in Poland. We should reevaluate our financial commitment to the United Nations. And we should never give American money to tyrants of nations in the hope of a blissful illusion of buying peace. Mr. Speaker, has America lost its way? We shall see. And that's just the way it is.